right, so here we are on the newest addition to our map pool. It's Khaydaria, ESV Khaydaria, or Khaydaria, whichever we feel like saying is the correct pronunciation, so don't worry about that. If we change it halfway through, we're doing it on purpose.
Yes.
But Root.MajOr is our challenger this week on Fight Club. This is Fight Club 29 for IGNProLeague, and he is the red Terran down here in the bottom right corner. This is a 4-player map, and up here in the top left we have TSL.HyuN. I'm actually not 100% sure if forced cross positions are on for this version of the map. We haven't had a chance to upload our own version yet because of patch 1.5 basically being really screwy for publishing maps. So I couldn't actually tell you if this was forced or not, but it is a 4-player map.
I'm 99% positive it is.
Okay.
Like, I'm not going to put my entire reputation on the line
course.
and say, oh, of course it is.
Well,
but,
who does that? They're like, I'm going to put my entire reputation on this next statement.
Well, I am going to do it right now, as it looks like he's getting ready for a barracks here. If you let me down, Major, I'm going to be
let's go,
so
Command
upset.
Center. Oh,
yeah! Reputation preserved.
That's so scary when that happens.
So the map is Khaydaria. We actually took 2 maps out of our map pool, Sandshore and Mist and Taldra and Malter. Bye-bye, Taldra and Malter. I'm actually a little sad that that's gone. Not sad in the sense that I ever wanted it to be in competitive play anymore, but it produced a lot of good games. So I have a lot of nostalgia for it. But we introduced Whirlwind and Khaydaria. So those are our new 2 maps. This is Khaydaria. It's got a pretty decent wide main, as you can see, surrounded by a lot of droppable area, though, and there's a pretty good amount of space behind the mineral lines where you actually can get in there and do some damage. You're pretty normal ramped over to your natural, and a wide ramp running out to your third, but this is pretty easily forge fast expandable, but it's a little bit farther away than a ramp would normally be. So I imagine we're going to see some Protoss players that will choose to forge fast expand directly from their ramp to their nexus.
I agree. The hook is going to be a little bit better than the wall, I think, for Protoss players, just for the reason that you said that the ramp is so far. Hellion run-bys and Zergling run-bys, if they do get in, they're going to be a lot harder to manage than a map with the ramp really close up, because cannons will just be out of range. Cannons, spine crawlers, all that sort of thing is just going to be out of range of that natural. So players are going to have to choose how to defend that natural. The third base for everybody is like I said, reminds me of Crevasse. It's nothing to write home about, just a big, wide open area surrounding it. So, I mean, a lot of maps have that third base just out in the open, just making it a little bit harder to defend. But right now, so far in this game, Major is actually expanding already at his natural, as is HyuN about to finish his first hatchery. So both players just taking it easy. Maybe this is a map they're not super familiar with either, so it makes sense to just hedge your bets and play safely to start this best-of-9 series.
As we can see, HyuN pulling off of gas directly at 100. Make sure he gets out that Zergling speed as quick as possible and no unnecessary gas from there on out. And because he's taken all of those off of gas, probably not going to go for any sort of super quick roach or baneling aggression, although, he could certainly throw us for a loop. HyuN's a guy who loves to do a lot of aggression, but it tends to come in the mid-game. He builds up 3 bases and then just sends waves of units at you, kind of like a hyper July Zerg off of 2 base, kind of like the way he was, but back on Major side of things, we do have a factory coming up. Also, so we'll take a look further at the space. So wide open third. Also off to the left, protected by a couple of ramps, you have this fewer resources per base. It's only got 6 mineral patches and 1 Bridge Vespian Geyser, and that leads to just 1 Xel'Naga tower in the middle of the map, which is really easy to flank if you're a Zerg player. It
is guarded by ESV Space Shark.
That's true.
That's always something to consider. The Shark doesn't actually attack, but it is very menacing. So it can frighten Zerglings pretty easily.
Yes. Ever vigilant as well. He'll keep a close eye on what's happening here at the Xel'Naga Tower.
That's right. I just feel bad for him because he's kind of restricted in range to the tower. I mean, I'm sure he would like to see what's beyond, especially since he can't activate the tower himself. It's kind of like it's like putting cheese right in front of a mouse behind a glass wall, so they know what they could have, but they can't ever actually get it.
Oh, look at this. HyuN, you are so good. So HyuN's making a huge amount of Zerglings, actually basically getting close to Speedling all in. Yeah. 2-base Speedling all in here. And he actually hides so many of them next to the destructible rocks so that they're out of the path of that SCV, and he wants to take a quick win here from Major.
I think he might. Let's pull up the unit tab just real quick. 3 Marines, 34 Zerglings. 2 Hellions did just pop out, though, so that helps Major. But he's going to have to do a really, really good job keeping those Hellions in a good spot. And here comes the assault right after a mule is dropped. Should back off. Yeah, he's got a free orbital command to start attacking and can at least force a lift off there. That mule and all those SCVs are prone to attack. There's only 3 Marines tucked inside those bunkers and 2 Hellions in production. Oh, really risky dropping supply depots at any point with that number of huge number of lings down in your natural. But here come the Hellions to try and start doing work. HyuN had everything on hold position, but is now going to try and flood in. He is going to get through. Even though the Hellions are doing tons of damage, he's now inside the base and doesn't have to fight. That's the key. He can just run past and get to those SCVs, but it looks like he is going to start flanking and trying to surround, killing off these Hellions. Once the Hellions are dead, he just has an open door, essentially, for any further Zerglings that he's going to make. But right now in the production tab, no more Zerglings. He's just buying time here.
Yeah, this actually ends up working out really well for Major because now HyuN is doing what a lot of Korean Zerg players have been doing, making a big round of speedlings and sending them at their opponent. HyuN made a little bit more than a lot of players do. That's why I almost called it close to all in, because most players will make like 16 to 18, send them out there, try to do economic damage. But it's great, you're droning up behind that. HyuN made a lot more than that, and Major was able to defend without taking that many losses. Look at that, 3 workers killed, one of those being the SCV that was scouting at the beginning of the game. So Major comes through it with a big economic advantage and actually a pretty decent tech advantage as well, as he's sending Cloak Banshees out across the map already.
Yep, Major's first Banshee will be arriving at the main soon. He's not going to waste any time at that natural. The main is undefended from air aside from 2 queens, but Cloak is nearly finished. So Hellions keeping him busy at the third and eventually the natural, I'm sure. Keeping his attention split with this Cloaked Banshee. Now he's got Cloak finished up so he can run back in there and try to do some work. But these Hellions are actually going to get surrounded and forced to retreat before doing too much economic damage. There wasn't a whole lot at that third base just yet, so he hit a nice timing for HyuN, actually. HyuN didn't really have too much to worry about. There is a Spore Crawler in the main mineral line. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, and Major did pick off 1 queen, so that was nice, but and he has shut down mining at least for a little while, but it looks like another Spore Crawler's popping up there, and there are roaches out on the field, so it's not going to be too difficult for HyuN to defend. In fact, running back with those roaches over towards his third right now. Major is not I was just saying not decided to put up a third command center, and then literally drops one down at that second. It's usually what you see out of Terran players at this stage.
Yep, and Lair is going to be finished up right now, so we'll see which tech path he chooses to go up. It looks like he has made a handful of roaches already, so roach speed would not surprise me into infestors, but right now Major has only shown his hand Hellions and Banshees so far. I'm not sure if he's going to be transitioning out of that, as his Cloaked Banshee scheme doesn't seem to be working out too well. There is a good number of Spore Crawlers out on the map already for HyuN, so I'm not sure how much longer that's going to continue. 2 armories going up at once, though, so it looks like Mech is going to be the build order of the day. Oh, and a Raven coming up. Nice to take out those creep tumors.
Yeah,
yes,
they offer so much utility as well, so good decision there from Major. Oh, he's going to run in now with a bunch of Hellions, and we'll see how much HyuN can do to actually defend this. Oh,
nice.
Really nice position on the top of the ramp there.
Yep, holding position right at the top of the ramp, gets a free couple of blasts on the Zerglings without all that surface area. It looks like a couple of them are going to get chewed down, but a lot of drones could potentially fall here before HyuN is able to clean this up.
Oh my god, that's a huge amount of economic damage. 17 now, 19 workers killed. And looks like he's not quite going to get that queen off to the side, but still, the damage is done. As we can see, Major basically has the same amount of workers that a Zerg opponent does. A Zerg opponent would have a clear advantage at that stage, but just doesn't have it right now.
Yeah, and Major's got enough Banshees mixed into his main army that's really going to help against the huge number of roaches that we just saw HyuN push out. Just saw that added DPS with no worries of losing it.
Ooh.
And what's that? Ventral Sacs and the speed upgrade for Overlords, both coming up at the same time here. HyuN did actually add a macro hatch into his main now as well, so he's going to be able to keep up production-wise with Major. 2 more factories being added on. I'm wondering if Thors are going to be coming up anytime soon, or if we're just going to see lots of tanks and Hellions. Hellions have been really successful for Major so far in this game, so I don't expect him to stop with that anytime soon, especially if he can sneak past these roaches.
Yeah, and it looks like Banshees are going to be able to drive those away. In fact, Banshees are just a little bit quicker until that roach speed finishes, but there it is. Roach speed is done, so they're going to be able to get away without taking all that much damage now. Banshee's still flying across the map, and Major pushing out with a few units in tow. Curious little push here, as he certainly had the potential to get a lot of things surrounded, but now there is a Spire coming up and an additional 10 workers on the way. It's going to be, what, 74 here in just a second, so HyuN's certainly reinvesting back into his economy well.
Yeah, Major hasn't built any Thors yet. He is just researching siege mode and getting some Vikings in the air. So I have a feeling that he's expecting a Spire. There is an engineering bay coming up now. I think he hasn't made one yet, so that is nice to be able to start building turrets. PDD goes down, zapping a few of those range shots there from the Queens, but Once that expires, these Banshees are probably going to have to book it back out of here. I don't know if he's going to be able to kill this hatch or on this mission. Maybe in another bounce back he might be able to. The PDD just now expiring, so now we have to see if he's going to keep going against these queens. One transfuse did go down on the hatchery, but both queens fall now, and he's got an open shot at the hatch. Looks like he should be able to take it out before this queen's able to respond. Hellion soaking some damage now as well, and going to score a lot of drone kills, it looks like.
Yeah, that's a pretty well-coordinated attack. At the same time, though, his orbital command is forced to lift because HyuN did just shift over a lot of roaches. He's going to try and catch some units on the way back. How many more workers have gone down? Looks like he killed 3 additional workers, but the hatchery kill was really what was very well done there for Major. So he's doing the very traditional mech thing. You've got to put up a ton of missile turrets because you've got to cut off as many overlords that are dropping as you possibly can, and then just start producing and bunkering up until you get to about 150 supply and move out. Up to that point, though, we'll see if he's able to do it because there are 9 mutas on the field now. We'll see if HyuN can get in there and do any harassment.
Looks like pretty good turret coverage from Major so far, so I'm going to be not expecting HyuN to be doing a lot of damage here. Also, Viking count has been raising steadily, one at a time, since those first round of Banshees were made. Blue Flame finally being upgraded. I was wondering if he was ever going to get around to that since he was sticking to Hellions for so long. Sensor Tower, again, just another added benefit to the Terran race, protecting against any kind of flying threat. And lots of changelings going down. That was kind of interesting. Instead of dropping them in the base, he dropped them just outside. So
oh, no! Oh, this is very
here?
bad for Major. Unfortunately, no missile turrets here at all, and that could be a lot of dead tanks if he's not careful. Looks like he's going to pick off most of those Banshees, though, so HyuN going to do some very real damage, forcing away a few mules that just popped up.
He is putting up a couple of turrets. You can see one sort of near the top of his tanks, one near the bottom, and now he's starting to scatter them a little bit more, but HyuN actually supply blocked at this point, lost an Overseer, it looks like. Or an Overlord perhaps somewhere else. His Vikings have been going on little raiding missions. Thors are starting to be produced now after verifying those mutas, and just more turrets coming up for Major. Right now, HyuN has reestablished his third. Doesn't look to be trying to establish a fourth just yet, as he is at max right now. He's going to try and do some damage with his Air Force and roaches. I'm sure he's going to look for that soft spot so he can try to drop into the main here.
All right, well, he has a lot of overlords in position, or did just a second ago. He can try and sneak some through here in a second. I mean, these mutals can essentially just kind of go on a suicide mission and pick off a couple of missile turrets, and while they're being reset, he can try and drop in with the overlords afterwards. A few Hellions making their way out. They're going to run into some defensive forces, though, and not really do all that much damage. Major is building up to that kind of critical supply that we were talking about before that a mech player does need, but we'll see if he's able to get the damage done that he wants, because there's a ton of units that are headed his way.
Yeah, a lot of Hellions doing work at that third, but it's go time here now. All the Overlords are already loaded, and they're dropping roaches onto the siege tanks. It looks like all these SCVs are set to repair, and they might be able to salvage some of the tanks, but the roach count is very, very high. All these tanks actually being killed off. Next will come the SCVs, next will come the turrets, and the roaches will basically have a free reign to get in. Yeah, Major.
GG's
out of the